We'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon to everybody on the east. Still good morning to everybody on the west. Coming up on the lunch hour here for you guys. We just wanted to go ahead and jump in, right? We're going to give you cover Bosch public address and paging webinar here for you guys today. Few things to consider, right? We are recording the webinar, so anybody that wants to go back and watch the webinar again, if you have any questions, you'll have the ability to do that. We will send out a link to that. Also, we will have the webinar again tomorrow. So if you do have any colleagues or any end users or customers that you want to share the webinar link with, we will be doing the webinar again live tomorrow. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation as well as during the presentation. So feel free to use the chat function within that. In that chat function, just enter in any questions you have there, and then AJ and myself will address it as we move forward with that. The presenter today will be AJ Peterson. AJ's been with us since 2011 as a technical specialist is where he started, then moved into our application engineering design team, as well as supporting all of training for North America for the communications portfolio. So prior to joining Bosch, right, he's got did a lot of audio background with multimedia and different content from that standpoint. So without with that, I will turn it over to AJ to begin the webinar.
Great, thanks, Preston. All right, thanks for joining us today, everyone, and taking an hour out of your day to discuss the Bosch. Whoops, did I open? No, sorry. The Bosch public address webinar. So we're going to cover our public address portfolio and kind of go over applications and some speaker offerings and vertical markets that we use it in. So big picture Bosch, kind of just showing you where all of this falls under, is we kind of safety and security. We're under the safety side of this, and that breaks down into fire alarms and then public address. If we cut that public address up kind of more so, in the right side you kind of have the green side, the little green blocks of the pie chart, which are public address and commercial systems. So this is going to be our vertical kind of the Bosch offerings where these products fall. To just kind of look at that from a stadium solution, the two blocks, I mean, this is kind of that pie chart in a big picture that we have. RTS is doing broadcast intercoms. Telex radios are doing radio over IP for the security, for fire, for police. Dynacord and Electrovoice are handling the DSP, the amplification, the line arrays, the big loudspeakers. Bosch obviously has security and video systems, and what we're focusing on is paging and mass notification, along with our offering of pendant, ceiling, and surface mount loudspeakers. So what is public address? This is probably the only slide I'll read here, but the definition of it is products and systems with the prime focus on broadcasting announcements to advertise, inform, guide, or alert large public. Integrated voice alarm functionality can be used for an effective evacuation during an emergency. The system also doubles as an audio distribution system. So this is any airport, cruise ship, shopping mall you've been in. When all is well, it's just a typical paging system. It's letting you know that Delta Flight 1234 is going to be delayed by 20 minutes. It's playing background music in a shopping mall. But what the prime focus of that system is to save lives and to evacuate a large amount of people in a large area. So something else to point out here is why I think this is important. You might say, well, we have a fire alarm system that has an alarm that works, and that's true. None of that's wrong. But adding, especially with large amounts, adding a voice alarm system that truly has an intelligible recorded voice to notify, instruct, and evacuate people is absolutely proven that people react faster. I always give an example. I was at a manufacturing plant down south, and we were commissioning a Presidio mass notification system. And before we did it, I kind of said, well, I'd love to see what you have now. What's your protocol today? And they pulled an alarm for a chemical spill on floor 2, which would mean everyone on floor 1 and floor 2 should go to their designated area outside. And I mean, no one even reacted. It was just a little siren went off, and there's a blue light flashing, and basically employees just kind of sat around and thought, "What? I'm not even sure what we do here." So it was shocking that after we had finished with the Presidio system, we had redone that test and had the fire marshal there and everything to kind of, certify this company as being a safe environment for employees. When there's a clear voice message saying there's been a chemical spill, all employees on floor 1 and 2 need to go to your designated area. It's kind of the feature of it. We're saving lives is the point here. So that's kind of defining what it is and what it's doing. This is now going to look at the Bosch offerings for public address and voice alarm systems. Vertical markets. So who uses these? I'm just going to put all of them up here. So on the bottom we have compact and easy. This is obviously a market that is strongly driven by price. It does have limited features. Some of these systems may or may not be certified to truly be a voice alarm system. I like to also call it maybe a background music system, right? We're going to see this in every coffee shop we go to, every sports bar we go to, where, it's a paging system. It could say evacuate, but your local Starbucks doesn't really need this massive evacuation system because of how small it is. So its main focus here is going to be general paging and background music to create an environment. Upper left, we kind of move into the ambience and experience. Very similar. Compact and easy and ambience and experience overlap a little bit, but you're going to probably have a little bit more feature-rich options like an iOS app to control it, and we'll discuss our products that do this. More zones, more ability for wireless control, again, sports bars, hotels, things like that, just a little higher-end offering, a higher-end quality. Mainstream, I think, is our most typical, and that's basically medium to large. We're kind of moving up the scale where, again, we might not have to have a full evacuation, system that meets all fire code and UL codes, but we need to have some way to notify people for general paging. I'm seeing this a lot in education, offices, conference rooms, things like that. Moving over to the right, we have the scalability and integration segment, and this is what I kind of call life safety. This is where the system truly has to be capable of evacuating something like a cruise ship or an oil rig in an emergency. And these systems are going to have things like redundancy, a much higher level of supervision, and battery backups, things like that. So looking at the segments that we're catering to there, we're now going to look at the Bosch offerings that match these vertical markets. In short, overview, 4 product offerings: Plena Easy, Plena Matrix, Paviro, and Presidio. Plena Easy is going to be that compact and easy. I often like to say if you can hook up your home stereo, you can hook this system up. That keeps integrators' labor costs down, installation costs down, and end users do not require any kind of training. Any end user could use a system like this. We're looking at 1 to 2 zones, basic paging, background music, 3 inputs, things like that, a sports bar, just kind of simple, analog, easy. Moving up, you go Plena Matrix. We're still in simple and easy, but we're kind of getting into creating an environment now. The Plena Matrix offers an iOS app that you can tune your system. You've got DSP control, you have wireless control, volume control, input source selection. So we offer a call station and a wall control panel, but with your phone or any device, I can simply walk around, say, a casino or a sports bar or a small venue and control these parameters right from my device. So still kind of blurring the lines there, but also goes up to 8 zones. So we've got a little bit more expandability on this system, and also keeping it very simple. It's a simple Cat5 is daisy chaining all of our hardware components. So again, installation is very simple, labor costs down, and end user is not requiring any sort of training for a product like this. Moving over to Paviro, we're looking at mainstream, big schools, things like that, larger venues. We can see we're going up to almost 500 zones with this system. It has some levels of redundancy and supervision and recorded messages and a scheduler, so we're getting a lot more feature rich with still keeping it very, very simple. But also this is the first one that we're offering that you can decentralize. So I'll talk more on that in a second, but we could have 4 systems, 4 controllers all talking to each other over the network, and now you see 4 systems at up to 492 zones. We're getting much larger. Presidio on the right is going to be our life safety. This is a true, certified life safety system that you see in many airports, cruise ships, and gas and oil rigs and things like that across the world, actually. And I'm realizing now I'm going to dive into these again, so I'll just move forward. But again, just showing you the Plena Easy that we're going to see these in restaurants. It's got your typical, iPod input, a CD player, a TV input. We can daisy chain amplifiers with just XLR cables. Again, if you can hook up a home stereo, you can use this. We offer mixer amplifiers in a single unit. We offer separate mixers and separate amplifiers, so there's scalability based on what kind of size you want. Plena Matrix, as I said, we're really ramping it up on the DSP. You truly have control of your entire system. This would probably be someone who not only wants that wireless control, but wants their venue to sound great. I could have some low impedance systems. I could have outputs going to Dynacord amplifiers and have kind of a front of house venue in my restaurant, but also have a background music system and do it all and do it wirelessly. And I could, in theory, mix from my iPad if you wanted. So it's kind of getting into that more feature rich, where it's still a smaller venue. This isn't going to be a venue that fits, 5,000 people. This is your sports bar restaurant that is going to want live entertainment. Something else, and we're also getting, and everything, I guess, from this on up is also the kind of green, keeping things green. Everything has auto standby. It goes to sleep. This, you can hook up motion sensors, so if it doesn't see people are in a building or a warehouse, it completely goes into idle. So just ways to keep things green and not waste power. Paviro, as I said, is now getting into the scalability of having up to 4 systems decentralized over a network. Again, this is actually using post amplifier switching. So the amplifiers come back into a routers or a banks of relays to switch the zone selections. And I mean, this has been done, this technology has been done, and the reason is to keep costs very affordable. So this product offering against competition is very affordable and very powerful for its price point. And you could even use this, you could use this right out of the box with just a controller and an amplifier. You're getting a 12-zone system with 500 watt output on a 70 volt line. So you can see with a 3 and a call station, 3 components, and I can do a 12-zone system with 500 watts, and that can do most small buildings right there with 3 components. And again, decentralizing these via Omnio protocol. I will talk more about that in a second, but this does allow us to have larger campuses, hospitals, things like that, where I have multiple systems. I should obviously, there's a SIP interface as well, right? So I could have, let's just say it's a hospital with 4 buildings. I can have each one have a head end, and my SIP interface can call any one of these buildings. My paging stations can call any one of these buildings, and we can interface a lot of different devices into it. Again, you can have motion detectors, any kind of GPIO. If you're familiar with just kind of most GPIO systems, I can interface all sorts of peripherals based off contact closures and relays. Then moving over to the Cadillac offering, if you will, is Presidio. And what we're looking at here is pure life safety. You can certainly have this as a BGM system. It would be a more expensive BGM system because what it's capable of doing. And this system, I mean, to put in perspective, the supervision on the system will supervise the voice coil of the call station all the way to the voice coil of an individual loudspeaker. So this system is capable of telling you every single component in its signal flow is or is not alive, well, and operational. It can tell you that of your 500 speakers in an airport, speaker 225 has a short in it. And now if I'm troubleshooting that system and that speaker's in a 60-foot high atrium that I need to build scaffolding to get to, I know exactly where I'm going. Same thing for cruise ships. They're supervising individual speakers because it is so hard to get to some of the speakers that the labor cost for replacing them is significant. So if I'm going to do this, build scaffolding, bring in a cherry pick or something like that, I need to know exactly what it is I'm fixing so I'm not wasting time. I mentioned Omnio. We could do a whole nother class on Omnio, which we might do, but anyhow, Omnio is kind of Bosch's flavor of Dante and Control. So we are using regular old Dante that you know and love for the audio transport. We take OCA, which is Open Control Architecture, for the control. So now I can send audio to a device and I can control that device. I take those two, I encrypt them, and I put it over a piece of Cat5 or Cat6, and that is what Bosch calls Omnio. So it's kind of our twist on Omnio, which allows us to use Dante and open control protocols, open format protocols, but still kind of encrypt it and have it, you know, we always kind of say in the backbone, this is doing Omnio to Bosch devices and things like that. But if you want, we can say, well, now I just want it to be Dante, to go to a third-party Dante DSP. No problem. They mix and match. I can have Omnio devices and Dante devices on my network, and it also allows us where maybe the Omnio devices, since they're encrypted, if I open Dante controller, you can hide them. So people couldn't just log in and mess with your cross patches or something like that. So again, we could do a whole class on it. But that is kind of the backbone, the Paviro and Presidio systems, to make them highly scalable and decentralized, is using the Omnio and Dante protocols. Of course, SIP interface as well, audio over IP interfaces for kind of a catch-all. Any analog device you have, we can convert it over to IP and get it into the network, the Presidio network, and make it kind of play nice with everything. We say virtually, you know, unlimited. I'm sure there is a limitation, but this really is I think we could do about 440 zones per system. I've done systems with 32 controllers. I mean, I'll show you in the end kind of some of the largest Presidio systems in the world. So I'm sure there's a limitation. We haven't seen it yet. So we've done some very large projects, and we have not had one that this product can't get the size and quantity handled. So more on that in kind of applications, but just a quick recap. We went over that what public address systems are, you know, what their purpose are, what their markets are, and then the 4 product families we offer. Planet Easy's our basic 1 or 2 zone background music and paging. It's compact, it's easy. Planomatrix kind of moves up to ambience and experience. We've got 8 zones. We have an iOS app so I can control my DSP, my mix, my input sources wirelessly. We certainly offer call station and wall control panels, but a lot of people really prefer just using their phone or their iPad. Pavero moves into that mainstream, that large shopping mall, that decentralized shopping mall, where it can handle, it certainly handles mass notification. It's not quite a true life safety system, but it's not meant to be. We're looking at big mass notification jobs at a very competitive price point with this system, and that's because we're using that post amplifier switching. And Presidio is true life safety. Large scale, I mean, it can handle any small jobs as well. It can do all the basic stuff, but we're really looking at a truly redundant, truly supervised battery backup, component backup system that is highly scalable over very, very large areas. Again, Bosch uses Omnio, which is our flavor of Dante control encrypted, and then we can also interface with regular devices if we want. So let's just take a little poll, and all you have to do, we're just kind of looking for some feedback to kind of see where you guys are at and what you guys do. But we're just wondering, in those market segments of kind of compact and easy, ambience and experience, mainstream, or life safety, where are you guys working? And you can just type it in the chat just to get a little feedback. Just kind of wondering what people are doing. Does Planomatrix work with Android? It has a PC-based software for control, and then an iOS app. So, to my knowledge, no. Preston, have that been updated, or is Android a no on that?
On the Android app for Planomatrix, it is just iOS today.
iOS, yeah. Great. We've got a lot of all of the above. I figured I'd see that. Commercial AV, excellent. All right, some K through 12, good.
I did get one message, AJ, sent over to me as a direct message in this. It says you show your call stations but large zones. How are these expandable to address all zones?
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And some of those might be where, say we did a training that was, here's a Presidio training. I would dive in really deep. So we are doing somewhat of a general just to cover all the products in an hour. But all of the call stations have extensions. Presidio, for example, can have 16 extensions, which ends up being like 200 buttons, which is kind of crazy. Most of the other systems can do 2 or 3 extensions to get you 32 to 64 buttons. And if you said, well, what if I have 100 zones and only 64 buttons? Quite often, 2 things. We can just type in a number. I could type in number 120 pound and then page, and that would go to zone 120. Or quite often people program zone groups where, yes, we have 100 zones, but do we really need to break them up to 100? And they'll do zone groups. The other thing is on a SIP call. So if I'm calling in on a telephone, it'll just say what zone or zones or zone groups do you want the page to, and via a DTMF, just your keypad, I can dial the zones I want to call in. So great question, and those are the kind of 3 flavors of how we would do that. All of the above. Life safety, great.
Yeah.
Education, hospitals, perfect. Thanks for the feedback, guys. I'm gonna put my screen back to the PowerPoint for myself. All right, so now I just want to take a little look at the loudspeakers. So we have paging, and that's great, and head-end equipment, but we also need loudspeakers. And something else we always kind of think about in a lot of these other presentations we've been doing in the last couple months is you might get a job and they say, hey, the speakers are fine, they sound great, just replace the head end, or that's just kind of looking at, it doesn't have to be, it's great if it is, but it's not like the job has to be a complete gut and redo, and quite often it's not, it's phased in. So I could just replace head end because, hey, whatever speakers we have we love, they still work, they sound great, and we don't have the money at this time. And the reverse of that's the exact opposite of where we say, we've got this brand new upgraded head end, we love it and the operation, but it still sounds terrible. What can you do? Then certainly think about Bosch and all of our offerings, because we might just come in and just replace. Maybe the head end's a competitor. That's fine. It happens. And they say, we just want a really nice install of speakers. And, take this into mind that we could just get a job and replace the speakers, which is still a job, right? So looking at some of our ceiling speakers, LHM 0606. For the price and for what this is, it sounds great. This is very kind of affordable solution that kind of meets everyone's need. The installation is super easy, so I'm not wasting money on labor. I still meet some plenum rating. I can have it in a plenum space. It is sold in a 10-pack, so you can get real good audio for really affordable and have it installed real quick. And in my opinion, when we do speaker shootouts and we do our direct competition in a lot of these, I think we win. I think we sound better at the price point than a lot of competition. And if we ever get back to InfoComm or any of our trade shows, we certainly would love for you guys to swing by and let us prove that to you in one of our listening rooms. LC1, I'm kind of moving up the chain now of getting into life safety. This is my favorite speaker that we offer for life safety. It comes in every kind of back box you can imagine. Plenum ratings, it's UL listed, it's fire listed, it has supervision, it has ceramic connect terminal blocks, it's fire retardant. I mean, it's got a back box, a pendant mount, a surface mount. This can do it all, and it meets all of the codes required for life safety, and it sounds wonderful. One of my favorite speakers, because whenever I spec it, if I didn't know they were going to surface mount some, I don't have to worry about it. I can do anything I want with this family of offerings, and it keeps it one speaker in several different mounts and variations. LC4, for those of you out there that design 70-volt systems and paging systems, you certainly know that we not only need to achieve proper SPL rating, but we need to achieve proper coverage. So the LC4 is a low ceiling design. The back box is only 3¼ inches, and the terminals come out the side. That is really excellent from an install point of view. If I don't have the luxury or the real estate behind that speaker, I can get that in less than a 4-inch cavity. All right. I also have a much wider dispersion. So I'm not having to put, if I put this little low ceiling speaker in and it's got a 90-degree pattern, I'm putting one every 4 feet. And I got to buy a bunch of speakers. This has a 180-degree pattern. So I can hit that low ceiling with very few speakers, reduce costs, reduce the labor, and still have excellent sound quality. And of course meets a lot of the certifications. We'll cover those in a second, kind of what the UL ratings, the fire ratings for all these speakers are. So LC2, most of you might know, or if you don't, that Bosch owns Electro Voice. You'll see a couple slides have Electro Voice or EV branded. That was a really great thing for Bosch. That happened back in 2006, and Electro Voice is known for absolutely one of the top 3 manufacturers of loudspeakers, and premium loudspeakers at that. So by acquiring them, Electro Voice engineers can design a very high-end speaker, and then we can brand it Bosch and Electro Voice. It's the same thing. So essentially we're utilizing that 100 years of Electro Voice engineering technology in a Bosch branded box. So this is an example of that. This is a very, very high quality premium ceiling speaker. So if you're talking to someone in a high-end restaurant or something like that where audio quality is absolutely a priority, we have that offering. And this would be that. And of course you'll see when you get to that high stuff, you also have like an 8-ohm bypass on the transformer, so we can run it 70 volt or 8 ohm in several sizes and models. Moving to industrial, our horn offering, another kind of couple industry things I think are pretty cool and sets us apart. LBC 3400 series. This is just your again, you're affordable, hitting a good price point with a lot of different patterns and sizes and outputs to just down and dirty, get the job done. You know, we're going to definitely have high IP ratings on these. These are completely indoor, outdoor, waterproof speakers, dustproof speakers, but a lot of offerings there and still a very, very good sound. PA430, the old PA430. I laugh when I travel around, when I used to travel around, even like at LAX, they've got some out there that look to be 30, 40 years old. I see this all over the place in parking lots and outdoors in airports and shopping malls and things like that. So just a good old industry standard, been around forever, really high efficiency, super loud and tight coverage for what it does. So I can cover a real nice outdoor space for a very affordable price. This is a newer speaker and one of my favorites, horn, and one of my favorites is, obviously we know horns don't sound as good as you know, two-way loudspeaker systems, but we thought, well, why not? Let's make one. So we made a very high quality two-way extended range music horn. Now, this isn't going to reproduce, you know, earth-shattering low frequencies that are going to, you know, rattle pictures off the wall. But for jobs that might be indoor, outdoor, or covering a wide area, and we're going to go with horns, but we want it to sound great. This does it, and I can name several airports they've done this and use these inside, and they're really nice. And then when it goes to just regular background music, it still sounds really nice. Again, it's not the best because it's a horn, but it's very, very good audio quality out of a horn. And here, just the big boy, if you will, again, a two-way system, extremely high output. And the differentiation here is the weight. And you might say, well, who cares? But I know people that install these on famous bridges in California that are working on boats and weird harnesses, that this is important. When I'm hanging from a harness installing this on the bottom of a bridge to talk to boats that may cross the bridge or go under the bridge and things like that, half the weight is a big deal. So again, we're saving time, and I feel like integrators and installers gravitate towards manufacturers that make their job easier, and I think that's our plus here. So again, you'll see kind of the Electro Voice brand pop up, and we're going to go over our surface mount loudspeakers. LB2, again, standing, just starting at our sounds really good. We need a bunch of them. You'll see these all over. You know, this is your, you name it, retail location where we just see a nice little square speaker up in the false ceiling, or you know, if they have the open ceiling, and we've got it paintable, indoor, outdoor, great quality for the price point. So LB20 is now just kind of stepping that up in a higher quality, but also throwing a subwoofer in there, right? So we might want a higher quality environment, a sports bar environment where I'm going to be having football games and music playing, and that's important. I can get some low frequencies with the subwoofer, but I think our big thing here, and again, I'm going to probably reference Infocom several times in all of these if we ever got to it, or if you stopped by last year, our Quick Smart. The mount on this is excellent. It comes pre-wired. We have a little video on it. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out, but you can screw it in, level it, levels all there, pre-wired, put a paint cover on it, leave, let the painting crew do their thing, walk back, and then I just take the cover off and click the speaker in. So our point is, not only are these sounding great, we're saving you money on labor, so you don't have to wire and hang things, and you can also install before paint, so I don't have to wait for paint to get done. So if I'm on a time crunch, it's just giving you more options. Compact sound, again, we've got a couple pendant offerings and kind of our little four-way satellite and sub, both in a ceiling mount version and a surface mount version. This I love. I mean, again, if you ever get a chance to hear it, I think you'll be shocked how good it sounds for what it is and what its price point is. And then I'm not really worrying with design. I'm not running ease models for something like this. I can go into a coffee shop, put a sub in the corner, and 4 satellite speakers in the corners, and I'm done. So I'm getting something real good, real quick, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to waste time designing or kind of thinking how this is going to sound, because we just took care of it for you. ZX1i, oldie buddy goodie, been around for a while, just giving us more options and install options. So this is 70 volt transformer or 8 ohm system, your choice. And this is just a very high quality sounding 70 volt permanent install waterproof indoor outdoor speaker. And we sell it in powered versions as well if you're more of a performer or something like that, but for paging you'd get the install version. A couple specialty things. Hemi-directional and vari-array. These are both pretty cool. So our hemi-directional speaker, the big differentiation for this is there is no competition. No one else is doing something like this. This speaker can cover 6,500 square feet with one. That speaker is about 5 feet in diameter. Kind of looks like something from a Star Wars spaceship, if you will. But what it's capable of doing is pretty impressive. There's actually a 14 speaker array within the disc there. And if you're going, why do I care? That's all great, but why do I care? Well, let's think about extremely challenging installs. If I'm looking at a huge train station or a massive area where you'd say, you know, again, I brought it up that what if I have to build scaffolding just to install these and then move the scaffolding, or I got to sit and deal with a cherry picker and the labor that would cost. What if I can just throw one speaker up and be done with the entire venue, or maybe 2 and be done with a 13,000 square foot venue? That's the idea. That's the feature there, that in really difficult environments, this can just be kind of a done deal. I know we did, I don't have a photo of it, we did some Coast Guard grade super hovercraft systems, and they put these, so it was like this massive hovercraft government Coast Guard thing, and they just said, how are we going to put speakers on this? We need to talk to our crew, and they put one of these, and it got the job done for a very large area outdoors on the ocean. It was really cool. The other one is vari-array. What we're doing here is in extremely acoustic challenging environments. I'm thinking glass, I'm thinking granite, I'm thinking marble, I'm thinking long railway tunnels and terminals that have reverberation going everywhere, and it makes the entire system sound muffled. This system with software allows you to dynamically adjust the pattern of the speakers. So with ease modeling and things, I can go in and literally steer these speakers in ways I want them to go, and then I'm not getting reverb off this surface or that surface. So really cool stuff, and we have, for those who've ever messed with it, we have full-time staff that kind of just design systems like these and do the modeling and can give you examples of coverage and things like that. So this is just kind of a quick recap of everything, you know, there's gray areas here, but what if you just said, what speakers do you have that are specific to music? You know, we just kind of did a little tab here showing you that we have, you know, ceiling, surface, and horn, and some specialty stuff, pendant stuff that kind of meets all the applications. Maybe more important for the paging and life safety people, the speakers that meet UL listings, right, for non-emergency and fire emergency. So again, I said I always love that LC1. Anyone who's doing an evacuation system is probably going with that. It's fully certified, and you can use it to save lives, and it meets all the code requirements. IP ratings, if you aren't familiar, ingress protection or That says international protection markings. I've heard that as well. But essentially, the first number is its ability to resist solids, and the second number is its ability to resist liquids. So if you look at the bottom horn loudspeaker number 3, the third one is the LH2 marine grade. So at an IP67, you can completely submerge it underwater. And then the next one over is explosion proof. So on all of our oil rigs and things like that, we're doing an explosion proof speakers. Obviously, which that means is not that it can withstand an explosion, but that it will not cause an explosion. So it would not, nothing on that would ignite any kind of gas in the environment. And again, you can see all of them have certain levels of those ratings or not, and then that depends on what application you're doing. So to recap, ceiling speakers with full certifications for life safety, high, low, specific, any kind of mounting accessory you want, I can get you an example. Obviously, our horn loudspeakers are for the harshest environments, the explosion proof, the marine grade, the high quality sounding one that still meets this kind of indoor, outdoor, you know, hot, cold, whatever you got, it's going to work for the next 30 years. And best in class quality, at least certainly, again, back to Infocom, I know you listen to everyone, but if you ever get a chance, stop by and let us show you how they sound, and then just keep in mind that we obviously have UL listed, fire listed, and IP rated for every scenario that you could come up with. I'll pause right now for a second. It's just quick, if there's any questions or anything, we're going to try to keep this under an hour. Is there any questions, Preston?
Yeah, there are a few questions.
Okay.
The first one is there an application required for integration with an EPABX? Not so on the Plena side, we do have the ability to take a POTS line straight into the system itself. But really, that's the only one. Any of the other systems, you would need an adapter to transfer that audio in. And then, of course, as we move to SIP, we do have a SIP gateway that can go with any one of the systems that is a module that transfers to a SIP extension, some of which support per zone paging as well as all-call paging.
That's exactly what I would have said.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that. We do have another question. Would it be possible for you to explain the speaker naming? This may help us when choosing speakers. What does LC stand for? I like to pick on my my Dutch colleagues here a little bit, right? Because some of this came from the older days out of the Netherlands. But it's LC, so for the ceiling speakers, it's loudspeaker ceiling. LH is loudspeaker horn. LS is loudspeaker sphere, so that's something that's like a pendant. And then LB, so the surface mount stuff, would be a loudspeaker box from the translations there. And yes, we will get a recap out of the presentation as well as a recording for you guys. All right, go ahead, AJ. It's all the questions we have for now.
Great, thank you for that. All right, so lastly, again, just trying to keep this quick to an hour, and we'll hang out if you do have questions or you just want to chat or whatever. We'll hang out. We'll be here. I just wanted to show a couple examples around. Obviously, we're personally in Minneapolis, but around the world. You know, Bosch is a global company. Its Electro Voice company is based out of Minneapolis, and our office is there. But again, jobs all around the world. So this is just a really kind of high-end restaurant, and we kind of wanted to point out an example where they're using a background music system. They've got a typical, you know, I always say on a Monday night you come in and you've got some smooth jazz playing to have your family have a really nice restaurant meal, and then on Saturday night they want a house band to come in, and then we're going to crank up kind of, those are EVFs there in the background, and they'll have a big front of house concert venue within a regular bar restaurant environment, and they went with all Bosch Electro Voice on that. And if you're ever in town, stop by. It sounds great, and it's a really cool venue. Here's the Omni Hotel in Dallas, and this was a full kind of, again, music paging hospitality, but it is a mix. They've got the background music, they've got 70-volt systems, but they also have a poolside kind of front of house if there's a DJ at the pool. So they're doing low impedance and high impedance systems throughout the venue to make it a great experience wherever you are, whether you want quiet or you want that kind of a more high-end entertainment dance club environment. This is Virginia Tech, and showing an example of a life safety system, right, and large format campuses. So this is, integrated across their entire campuses. They've got SIP lines connected to call local authorities. There's integration to their telex radios, so we can go from a call station to a radio. We can go from a radio to the PA. We can go from a phone to a radio and a radio to a phone and a phone to the, any mix and match there where you're connecting local authorities and end users and security personnel for any potential emergency situations. Military examples, a government installation. You'll see, obviously, at this level, we're doing high-end redundancy and supervision. I always like to tell a story, an example of a feature we did that really kind of applies to this market that I think is really cool. I keep it vague. I said top secret locations, so we can't give you too much information, but we actually had an example where they had us write firmware for them, so if there was an attack or if the base was compromised and the military had to go to a fallback location, they can remotely kill the other call stations or the other devices. So if I'm at a fallback location, an enemy could use that PA to their advantage, so they can remotely kill those components in the system. And I just say that because I'm showing you kind of the level we go to meet these very strict applications where they kind of say, I need this feature because of this really one-off scenario, right? A shopping mall is probably not going to need that exact feature, but a government base would. This is Methodist Hospital in San Antonio, Texas, and we did. There's
AJ,
nice,
one thing I will
sure.
would like to interject right on the last one. I think it's an important topic, right?
Sure.
We bring this up, right? This is a functionality that maybe you would also have, right, in an office building or a school situation, right? You have something you need to now lock down, and just because we introduced this functionality for a specific customer, right, as a request, it is now implemented as a feature and available to every one of our customers, right? It's not something that we're just locking down to just this installation. When we do develop new features, they're open for everybody.
Excellent, thank you. I put this one in Methodist Hospital. If you did Google search, there's a nice write-up about it, but I added this one because in this scenario, they were very, very strict of the system not only need to meet UL 2572 for mass notification, but also fire code. And the local fire marshal there, we worked with a partner and just did a wonderful install where that system truly is the evacuation system and integrated to the fire system and their entire phone system and their nurse call system. So it is capable for these systems to integrate with all existing, even if it is third party or other manufacturers' equipment, to make a truly robust evacuation system that meets all local codes. I always add this one because it's my favorite job I've ever done. If you've ever had the luxury of going to St. Martin, that's a really nice Presidio system in there, and they also, it just works great. Again, Presidio, I can say how big it can be and how expandable it is. Very common in the Caribbean to have, we do a lot of Caribbean islands because it works perfect. I think Princess Julian's like 8 gates, and their system's probably no bigger than what's pictured there, and it works great, and they love it, and it meets all of their codes, and it's simple. The end user operation's extremely simple. But I like to point out from smaller Caribbean islands to some of the largest in the world. Again, I said we kind of say virtually no limitations. This is the largest Presidio system in the world. I'm sure there's some limitation, but we haven't hit it yet. And if you ever I haven't been to Dubai, but if you've ever been there, I hear this airport is pretty vast and it is a complete Presidio job. And then another one, I call this the most redundant Presidio system in the world that we worked on a few years ago. This is a Australia Pacific liquid natural gas plant. This is another, if you're curious, you can Google this and there's all sorts of write-ups about it. But it's gas and oil, right? So they're using what we call A plus B systems. This oil refinery, or liquid natural gas refinery, has a complete A system. System A, totally functional, and a lot of cruise ships do this as well. System A is completely functional, has all its own call stations, all its own components, and that system is redundant and has a battery backup and has redundant amplifiers, has supervision. And then they take and do an entire B system as well. So they've literally got two redundant systems, fully functional and operational simultaneously. And they do this because one, and a lot of times they put them in different locations. So they'll, if a room started on fire and the head end was destroyed in one, the B system's head end's in a different location, for example. But the reason they do all of this is because it completely eliminates downtime. When I was commissioning this, I asked the guys, what does downtime mean? And they said downtime is about $1 million an hour, and we cannot operate if we do not have a functional evacuation systems. Just like a Coast Guard will not allow a cruise ship to leave port without a functional Presidio evacuation system. And they would lose millions of dollars if our equipment were to fail. So if anything did happen in that A plus B scenario, you would have a fully functional B system that I can now fix system A while B is still doing its job, which never happens because system A is already redundant and system B is already redundant. But when things like oil and gas and that many lives are at stake, if you're on a cruise ship, I want to make sure the evacuation system works and that I can hear it and that the message is clear and I know exactly what to do if we hit the iceberg, for example. So that's kind of the wrap up. Tried to keep it to right about an hour of how Bosch's paging and mass notification offerings are, why we do it, what markets we do it in, and some examples of us around the world. So please feel free to, if you have any questions or anything like that, we'll hang out to answer them. Otherwise, we are doing a lot more of these, and we've probably been invited to them, but certainly check us out on all the kind of social media and things like that, and I will just hang out and answer any questions. Otherwise, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us.
So we do have a question that did come in here. The Plena Easy line is broken into two types. Could you explain the major differences? Sure, I'll take that one, AJ, for you here. So we have what we call the Plena Easy, and you'll notice that some start with ME and then some start with MA. Really, some of the major differences between the ME and the MA is the amount of inputs, right? So on the MA stuff, you do have the ability to do up to 3 BGM selections, background music. So you have like a little toggle switch, do an A, B, and C input with the remote user panels that could be mounted out in the location. As well as you do get some additional functionality on the MA over ME, where you might have the ability to have a duck, right? So instead of using a priority override that's available in just the MAs, you could get a ducker as an additional feature, right? So the music then ducks down and then comes back to its full level when the page is over.
All right. I think that's it. If not, you can certainly call us, email us, whatever, we're here to help if you want any follow-up. Otherwise, again, thank you very much, and make sure to check out some of the other offerings from the other teams and departments.